I wanted to talk about the theory that as soon as somebody thinks they know anything, they forget everything. I don't know how else to describe it, and today I'm going to use the examples of people I know, police-trained negotiators, police-trained negotiators, corrections-trained negotiators, and business-trained negotiators. They all tend to argue. They don't ask questions. They insist. I've had business-trained negotiators telling me that they're trained in negotiating, that they know what they're doing, and but they don't listen because they think they know. And that ties into where people talk about the difference between what to think and how to think. It seems like, and I mention this because I've been studying Chris Voss, and he's got I don't remember his name, but he's got a police officer. I don't remember if he's a police-trained negotiator or if he's just a police officer, though not just a police officer, but so he says joining the Chris Voss team, he learned more and different skills, and so I want to tie all of this back to Chris Voss. And I was saying a moment ago, I've had friends who are trained negotiators, and they tend to argue, and I'm starting to think that has a lot to do with people thinking or believing or being trained on what to think, not how to think. And I think the difference between what to think and how to think ties into I'm going to use the military as an example, where when I went through basic training, it was called basic, though there was another name at the time. It was the QL2. Before my time, it was called the TQ2 or TQ3, and TQ2. By the time I joined, they changed it to QL2, and then they changed it a whole lot more, and again, just now they changed the name. The U.S. military now calls it something completely different, and it sounds like the assumption is that because the name is different, we know that it's going to be different. And my argument is, you could take the same class months apart, even in the same class. I forget my better example is where there could be two students side by side in the same class experiencing two completely different things. For one, it might be easy, it might be boring, it might be looking for more and having anticipated more, and the other student could be in hell. And so it seems we should stop focusing on changing the name to train people to know what to think. Instead, it seems we should be training people on how to think, in the sense that if we think that we don't know anything about a subject, to remain curious about what might or might not happen. Chris says that's important in any conversation, is to not expect the other person to treat us with kindness and decency. We don't know if the other person is having a bad day, and if they are having a bad day, we can actually calm them down if we know how to calm other people down. But instead, it seems society trains us to think that they have to stay calm, they have to remain calm in our conversation, and even if they're having a bad day, and it's not my responsibility to make somebody else's day better, but I can choose to, and I do it all the time, at least with my favorite place to practice it is with coffee baristas. And it's not just the coffee barista, but the fast food chains. I've done several videos on it, and I can clearly see that when restaurant hostess, coffee barista, that they're having a bad day, you could see it on their face. They're wearing it. I tell them what it looks like, and they get a smile. It makes them happy that I've acknowledged them as an individual. And if it looks like they're bland, like they're not having a bad day and they're not having a good day, like I just assume that they're exhausted. And I say it, and they get a great big smile. And that's a choice. And if it looks like they're having a good day, I say it, and they get an even bigger smile. And that's how to think. I don't know how anybody else I'm dealing with, I don't know how they're doing. But if, like studying Chris Voss, if I think, how can I make their day better, I just label what it looks like they feel, and it usually makes them feel better. What I've also discovered by accident, when they don't have a good day, when I ask them, when I use that example or a similar example, if at the end of the day, when somebody's exhausted, I ask what they loved most about the day. At the end of the day, everybody's tired. Everybody's looking forward to going home. Everybody's looking forward to relaxing. So I ask what the favorite part of the day was. And 99% of the time, they already know the answer. They already got a great big smile before I'm even finished the sentence, usually. If they don't get a great big smile in about 3 to 5 seconds, that tells me that they had a bad week. So then I'll change the question and ask what they loved most about the week. And usually 97% of the time, everybody gets a great big smile before I'm done the sentence. At the latest 3 to 5 seconds. About 97% of people do. If they don't, I know they had a bad week. And so I ask them what they love most about the week. Usually there's one thing that happened in the week. And so that's a choice. I don't know anything about the conversation. I just know that if I practice how to think, to remain curious, like Chris Voss says, I can usually make people happy. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's a short version. And so to go back to the negotiators, the trained negotiators, it's like they're trained to think that they know how to negotiate, and they're trained to it's like they're trained to think that they know the answer. And I've had negotiators disappointed when they found out they were wrong. And the Chris Voss method has people staying curious and happy to find out that they're wrong, because it gives us more information. And so I'm tired of people arguing, especially trained police, corrections, business negotiators, trained negotiators arguing on a positive note. To end on a positive note, I find that police officers, especially new recruits, police officers are usually quick to eager to learn more and different information. But it seems like police negotiators are trained to think that they know what to say or what to think, instead of how to think. And it seems like the solution, the antidote, is to stay curious, to discover more information, because life is so complicated. How can we know anything? So I don't want to end on a bad note. I don't know how to turn it into positive. I just thought of another example where I consistently have people answering a question before I'm done asking. It's like they think they know the answer when I don't even know what I'm trying to ask. Before I'm done asking a question, they already have the answer, and it's like, hang on here. So how can I end on a positive note? How can I turn that into a positive? I think I got a forced curiosity. I got to do some more work on that. Chris talks about forced empathy with a version of how am I supposed to do that is forced empathy. Forces the other person to think about me. So maybe I'll end on that note, and on a positive note is giving the viewer tools to improve communication is the best way to say no is with forced empathy, and it makes the other person think of my perspective, of your perspective. And I'm working on a similar question on forced curiosity. Chris doesn't talk about forced curiosity, though a good alternative is asking, how am I supposed to do that? That gives me a few points to work on. I think I can use how am I supposed to do that to also use it as a forced curiosity. I'll try that this afternoon. So, good point to end on is if somebody starts giving you the answer before you're done asking, you can ask a version of how am I supposed to get any help if I'm not done asking the question. All right, thanks.